I'm so sorry, everyone.
It's okay. We're back.
Someone please tell dear Christy to rejoin. And it is now set so that she can share. Okay, I think everyone who was on earlier is getting back on now.
There we go.
Okay, sorry about that, everybody. Christy, you should be good to go to share if you want to give that a shot.
Okay, great. Hang on, I gotta get it full screen here. It doesn't work. Okay, can you all see the RISE scholarship thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, cool. When we do this officially, I'll get to the right place, but that's all. So I'm going to stop sharing. That's all I needed to see. Just make sure it worked. Yay. Thank you.
Lovely.
Perfect.
Thanks, Delane.
Sorry for the mild inconvenience. I swear I work in technology.
There's Jacqueline. So Christy, you're in Tyler?
No, sorry. I'm in Florida.
Oh, in Florida. Okay. Where about?
Yeah. The nice thing about Zoom, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. I've been doing this for a while, and one day I'm talking to Canada, and the next day I'm talking to California, the next day North Dakota, all over the place. And then sometimes it's like, oh, it's 40 minutes away, but it's easier to do Zoom. I'll just do it.
Yeah.
And that's the entire reason we're an e-club. We all wanted to be in a club, but very few of us live in the same place.
Yep.
I get it. It takes 45 minutes to get to the half an hour, 45 minutes, depending on traffic, for me to get to the local club. And I shouldn't admit it, but I dropped out and thought I was going to get into something, and I never did. So anyway, and now I'm.
If you ever want to join an e-club, you're more than welcome to join us.
Yeah, we're taking applications. Don't be a stranger.
Yeah, Christy, it's easy. It's easy to get on.
Well, it is when I don't accidentally end the meeting. That is
for most people. Your evening's free. It's easy to join.
Yeah, well, the last straw was when they told me I had to order lunch. I had no choice. I had to order lunch. Okay, a soda and be happy. No, it doesn't cut it. I thought, okay, I got to find another club. Then I just do it.
Jacqueline, welcome back. Thanks for joining again. We were all just talking and we wondered if you received the proper documents or links in order to get your information signed up to join our club. And if you're talking, you're on mute. All right, we lost Jacqueline.
Somebody's connecting to audio. Is that somebody else?
There you are.
Yeah, so multitasking at its finest. I definitely heard that you guys are having a guest speaker today, so I figured I would just tune in and listen to it like I listen to like an audiobook while I drive. So
Oh, of course you're driving.
I am a multitasker at its finest, and I don't want to like touch my phone, so I'm just gonna listen today.
That's totally fine.
Okay, cool. So love all of you guys. Can't wait to hear the speaker.
Glad to have you back.
Okay, bye.
And Molly has a new last name, but it still says Mellenbacher on Zoom.
Oh, I need to change it on here.
Congrats, Molly.
Is that Thunder?
Yeah.
She
Wait, I'm on my I'm on my phone and I can't see who's talking. How do I do this?
Jacqueline's excited. She's also driving.
Oh, hello.
Thunder, it's Legacy. You brought me back as a junior.
Yes, I know who you are.
Okay.
Well,
But yeah,
awesome.
thanks, Sarah.
Thank you guys all for joining today. So we just got a couple of announcements here before we really get rolling with our speaker. First of all, welcome. Second, just a reminder on our service project for the quarter. If you've done anything, submit your forms. If not, remember we're staying on that green initiative, helping the earth. So get out and do something, pick up some trash, clean up a highway, whatever you think falls into that purview, we'd love to have you involved in that. Just don't forget to fill out your form and submit that once you're done with that. As far as what we brought up last week regarding nominations for this upcoming Rotary year, we do have 4 positions open for nomination. We sent that out in our last meeting. We're going to send that. I'm going to drop that in the chat here today, so you can fill out that if you want to nominate yourself or another member of our club. Go ahead and fill that out. We will contact everybody to make sure that if they're nominated, that they do in fact want to serve in that role. But just a reminder: membership chair, service chair, RILA chair, and scroll down my list here, and programs chair are our open positions for this next year's board. So I'll drop that right now, but we'll also send that out to you. We are going to leave nominations open till the end of the week here. So we'll close that down on Friday. If there is any multiple nominations for a position, those will all go to vote in our upcoming meeting in 2 weeks. And then we'll let you guys know who our new board members are the following meeting after that. And then Greg, I believe you had some notes on foundation.
Yeah, I just wanted to remind everybody that the district is doing a matching dollar per dollar. So whatever you guys donate till the end of this quarter, June 30th, they will match it. So you can just go on My Rotary and donate. But if whatever you donate, just kind of let me know, because that way I can let Mike Room know who's donating, and then he'll make sure you get the match. So it's just a good way if you're wanting to try to get up to the Paul Harris Fellow, which just kind of helps you out that way. I think it has to be at least $100 though for them to match. So if you guys are wanting to do that, try to do it by next year or before next year, next quarter. I mean, so
what's the best way to submit that
donation?
I think go on My Rotary.
Yeah, just get on My Rotary, and there's ways you can donate. You can do a one-time donation. They also have it set up where you can do a recurring donation. You can sign up for recurring donations if you want to. Also, I might have mentioned before, if any of you work for a big company, like my company will match, they'll also match 100% what I donate. So you guys might want to look into that if you work for a bigger company.
Yeah, Greg, that's one thing that I did look into with my company. I think you have to submit the organization. So like if I were to make a donation to the foundation, it has to be a part of their approved organizations.
But there's a lot of them in there. You can go to I forgot it's if you click it, if you're doing the My Donations, there's somewhere in there where you can click and it'll show you can type the name of your company in and it'll pull it up if they are a part of it. So mine's automatically, it's already in. There's a ton of them.
But if it's not a part of my company's approved organizations and I needed to submit it, is there somewhere that has the foundation's information for me to submit it? I guess it's on that foundation page.
Yeah, that I don't know.
It's gonna take some digging.
Yeah, because I don't know. I guess what you're saying is you have to see if your company will approve it. So Okay, because some, yeah, I know there's pre-approved ones already that they just automatically match, but I think that may be more something your company might have a form that.
Okay, I'll look into it. Yeah.
But anyway, just to let you guys know, but if you,
Sounds like, looks like Christie's got some input there.
Just a thought, Charity Navigator has the Rotary Foundation on there and it's got their top rating.
yeah,
So
Okay, that might help.
that might help them decide to okay it if it's not already okay.
yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, Rotary Foundation is one of the best ratings for, all the charitable organizations. So
Absolutely.
that's a good idea. But anyway, let me know if you guys do donate and you want the match from the district, let me know. And kind of towards the end of the quarter, I'll send an email to Mike Room with the list of what everybody's donated. So that's it.
Awesome, perfect. And then I'm not sure that this is relevant, but just a reminder, and Clayton interject if so, but if somebody hasn't paid dues, I just want to remind everybody of that once again. But otherwise, if no other announcements from the board, Sarah, if you want to go ahead and introduce Christi, and we will get started.
Yeah, so first I just want to let you all know that we'll have Sarah Jenkins' brother as our guest speaker for June, and I think that's going to be on June 21st. So we'll have a few networking meetings before then.
I just
Paige, is that you?
Oh no, sorry.
All right. So sorry guys, my Zoom went away. Give me just a second. Okay, can you all hear me still?
Yep.
Lovely. Okay, so thank you, Christi, so much for joining us. Christi Eisenberg is a long-term advocate for their project's work in Guatemala. I'm assuming this is the Rotaries. So the Guatemala Literacy Project is a Rotary Club sponsored project. And she's been involved with the parent organization Cooperative for Education since the early 2000s. Christi has traveled to Guatemala before, so she has great insight into the GLP's need for support and kindly volunteered to join the ambassadors team last year. Thanks to the support of over 600 Rotary clubs worldwide, the Guatemala Literacy Project offers educational programs to over 200,000 students in Guatemala, working to break the cycle of poverty through education. So Christi, with that, I will leave it to you to explain the rest to us.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks so much. Let me pull up my slides before we actually get started. This is going to work. Yes. Okay. Almost there. Hang on. Okay, is it now full screen? You can see it? Yeah. Okay, great. So I really did want to thank you all for the opportunity to speak today. I'm here to tell you about an amazing Rotary Scholarship program called RISE. RISE is part of the Guatemala Literacy Project, which some of you may have heard about. Guatemala Literacy Project, or the GLP, is a partnership between Rotary clubs and Cooperative for Education to promote literacy in Guatemala. And we've been at it for 25 years. So let me give you a little snippet of information here about the first student my husband and I ever sponsored. She's to my left in the pictures, my husband and I. We were down there. We were not down there with Guatemala Literacy Project. We were down there. Matter of fact, while we were there, we learned about the Guatemala Literacy Project. But we were down there with a different NGO and doing some construction work. And we had just come from a construction site. So yeah, that's why we're dressed the way we were. Anyway, and this was our very first student and her mom. And the reason that I bring this up is because I just wanted the opportunity to explain to you what a special, special relationship it is to get to know somebody and to have such a personal connection to where your donation money goes. So we could write letters back and forth, and we get to know the students that we sponsor. That's true also with the Guatemala Literacy Project. So it gets to be a real personal thing, and it's just special and different, and I can't explain it. It's the best I can do. So let me tell you a little more about RISE, or really about the Guatemala Literacy Project. It's a global network of Rotarians, Rotary clubs, and districts fighting literacy in Guatemala. The GLP is one of the largest grassroots multi-club, multi-district projects in Rotary. And over the past 20 years, the project has included 600 plus Rotary clubs, 80 plus districts, 46 US states, and 8 countries. So I ask you, can a large group of Rotarians change the world? Is that possible? Well, yeah, it is. I'm working with other Rotarians. So our power as Rotarians is our collective power. If we work together, if we combine our time, our talent, our treasure, we can truly change the world. So here's what Rotarians have accomplished working in Guatemala for the past 24 years, 25. They hit 25 since I typed up these notes, sorry. Anyway, so 225,500 students have benefited. And that's enough to fill your average baseball stadium 5 times over. Now, there are 207 textbook projects, and let me just give you a brief description of what that is. That means 207 rural schools in Guatemala that had no textbooks at all and now have textbooks. It's a sustainable project. Basically, the parents and the school administration decide that, yes, they're willing to pay a fee every year to have their kids basically rent the textbooks for the year. The end of the year, they turn them back in and they get next year's textbooks, and the textbooks are turned down to the kids coming up. And by the time the books are needing to be replaced, they have the money to replace them. So this is a sustainable project. Can you imagine going to school without any textbooks at all? Can you imagine trying to learn? And yet that's indeed what reality is down there for many, many of the rural schools. So they also have 94 Sparks reading programs. Now, oops, I should have told you about the textbook projects, that's from 7th to 12th grade, the textbooks. In the Sparks reading program, the kids are taught, the teachers are taught to teach the kids to read better, faster, and earlier. And they're provided with books to read, starting with the very beginning readers on to chapter books. So many teachers graduate from high school one day and the next day they're teaching in grade school. So they're never taught how to teach. So those teachers go into a 2-year program through the Guatemala Literacy Project and Cooperative for Education, and are taught how to teach. There are 53 computer centers that educate 14,000 kids every day when COVID allows. Those computers and the equipment there and the repair, it's all paid for in a similar way that the textbook projects are. There's a fee and it covers repairs and replacements when needed for the computers. There are approximately 750 students on RISE scholarships. I know it says 731. We had a few more come along since these slides were made. So when GLP started in 1996, 2 out of every 3 people in rural areas couldn't read or write. Today, it's just 1 of every 3. Working with others, Rotarians have helped reduce the rate of illiteracy by 50%. So yes, we still have a really long way to go, but we're making tremendous progress and changing Guatemala. And we'd really like for you to join us. So now let's focus just on the RISE programs. Our 750 scholarship recipients are spread between 16 communities just west of Guatemala City. So I don't know if anybody in your club has ever been to Guatemala, but it is absolutely, that area is absolutely the most gorgeous area. There's this great big lake, Atilan, with many little communities along the shores, 3 volcanoes surrounding it. I mean, it's just gorgeous, gorgeous. And by contrast, there's the most severe poverty I've ever seen. I've traveled a lot of places. It's the most severe poverty I have ever seen. So speaking of people who have traveled to see work in Guatemala, does anybody recognize this guy? He's a former president of Rotary International. It's Ian Reesley, and he was Rotary International president 2017 and 18, and he came to Guatemala and visited the GLP. He and his wife, Juliet, are surrounded by RISE scholarship recipients. And as you know, literacy and basic education through secondary school are key focus areas of Rotary International, and we have a long history of funding scholarships. So why Guatemala? Why all the attention to this part of the world? Well, Guatemala is an island of the literacy. While neighboring countries have progressed educationally, like Mexico, Honduras, and El Salvador, Guatemala has been left behind, and it's the most illiterate place in the Western Hemisphere. The population is about 17 million, at 40% being indigenous Guatemalans. Rural Guatemala is simply the poorest, least educated place in the Western Hemisphere. 80% of rural Guatemalans live in poverty. A third of Guatemalan adults can't read or write. And nearly 70% of children are pulled out of school by the 7th grade because their parents can't afford to continue their education. These conditions fuel high rates of migration northward. As we speak, unaccompanied children from Guatemala are fleeing to our southern border. Guatemala is now one of the largest source countries for undocumented migration to the United States. So I believe that no one should have to migrate to survive. And I think most Rotarians can agree on the benefits of creating opportunities for people in their home countries. So what's our solution? Yep, education. So we have thousands of kids standing on that 6th grade cliff. They've finished grade school, but their parents can't afford to continue their education. But where we need to get them is up there to that 12 full years of education ending in graduation from high school. And we know from studies that if we can get them that far, if we can get them 12 years, we're very likely to get them out of poverty. But there's this huge gap. And in comes RISE, bridging the gap with education. RISE provides 6 more critical years of education, getting students all the way to the goal, high school graduation and that life beyond poverty. But RISE is more than just a scholarship. It's a robust youth development program that includes training in job skills, life skills, and community service. Research shows that soft skills are even more important than hard skills for success in life. This is a RISE scholar learning how to prepare a resume and interview effectively for a job. So if you ask a student in rural Guatemala what they want to be when they grow up, most will say a teacher, because that's often the only professional person that they ever see. They never see an accountant or a nurse or architects or engineers in their villages. In RISE, we set up career panels where local Rotarians tell them about their occupations. I'm an architect, I'm an accountant, I'm a businessman, and this is what my career is all about. RISE scholars get to ask questions about these careers. The RISE program also offers workshops on topics such as financial education, self-esteem, human rights, leadership, and teamwork. RISE scholars learn to identify and present solutions to problems in their own communities. And this wouldn't be a Rotary project if students didn't learn to give back. They design their own community service activities to benefit those in need. This is one of the RISE scholars giving a food bag to a man in need in her community. This truly embodies service above self. This program has a huge ripple effect. Educating a child changes their family, and changing their families changes communities, and changing communities changes Guatemala, and changing Guatemala helps change the world. So I have a story for you. Claudia, excuse me. When she was just 11 years old, she faced a really bleak future, expecting to drop out of school after 6th grade and help her mother embroider and sell handicrafts to pay her sister's primary school expenses. With these younger sisters, with 3 younger sisters, there wasn't enough money left over to send Claudia to middle school. And her father was very stingy with the majority of the family's income. But 8 years ago, Cooperative for Education's RISE program gave Claudia a chance for a different future. Instead of dropping out of school, Claudia went on to middle school and discovered that she had a knack for numbers thanks to co-ed's textbooks and computers at her school. And in 2016, she graduated as an accounting secretary with a licensure in computing, and she's now working at a company in San Lucas that does real estate surveying, earning a professional income, and planning to continue her education in college to become an auditor. Claudia's scholarship has changed her sisters' lives too. Now that her dad sees everything Claudia has achieved, he's changed his mind about the value of education and has started offering more support to his daughters. So one more story. This is Anselma, and she was a really, really shy 6th grader, like so many thousands of children, was standing on the edge of that cliff on the verge of dropping out of school. But she was such a bright and promising girl, and she desperately wanted to continue her education. We offered her that golden ticket, a scholarship for junior high and high school. Dad said, "No, I only had 3 years of education. You've already had 6. Look at your older brothers I'm trying to educate. We need your work here on the farm. And besides, you're a girl. Girls don't get educated around here." Her teacher talked to him. Her mom talked to him. Finally, they convinced him to let her accept the scholarship. So we put her on a RISE scholarship to bridge her from 6th grade to graduation from high school. Here she is, 15 years later. I love this photo because she's pictured with her mom and her mom's mom, 3 generations. Mom and grandma show the track that Anselma was on had Rotary not intervened. Grandma, completely illiterate, signs her name with a thumbprint and desperately poor. Mom, completely illiterate and desperately poor. Anselma, college graduate, solidly middle class, and now making 4 times more than her dad. Yeah, he's now a believer. And in just one generation, with just a bunch of Rotarians working together, we've broken that cycle of poverty in this family through education. But the benefits don't end there. Now, Anselma herself is married and has a daughter, Abigail. Abigail will never need a scholarship from Rotary. Why? Because her parents are now middle class and they can afford to educate her. Again, RISE is breaking the cycle. The key truly is getting these students to graduation. Outside the RISE program, 1 in 10 graduate high school. But within the RISE program, 8 in 10 will graduate. 87% of graduates get jobs or continue education, and over half fund education of younger siblings. One scholarship thus becomes many. 100% get out of the extreme poverty like you saw in some of the earlier photos. So why now? RISE scholarships are needed now more than ever. COVID-19 has devastated Guatemala's economy. Many families falling from poverty into extreme poverty, driving migration. Help is needed now. So here's where we are, the blue bar, about 750 scholarships. And there's the goal, 1,500 scholarships to respond to the devastation of COVID-19 and beyond. We need 750 more at least. And I don't know how we're going to do it, but I'm out there to tell my fellow Rotarians, Guatemala needs 750 scholarships. And I wanted to ask if you or your club would consider providing one. Just think about it for a minute and I'll tell you how easy it is. But just don't take my word for it. Here are powerful words from other Rotarians. RISE is a perfect club project. This project has really lit our club on fire and excuse me, Jim Hunt continued. We went from 1 or 2 members supporting an international service project to everyone supporting it. And well, here's another trivia question for you, a Rotary trivia question. Who's the lady in the white dress? Well, I'll let you think about it, but it's Jennifer Jones. She's the year 2022-23 International President of Rotary International, and she's from Canada. And as you can see, she said, this is the gift that the GLP has created, and I'm happy to be part of the journey. So it's easy. All you need is 8 people willing to give $10 a month for a year, less than a weekly cup of Starbucks, and a champion, somebody willing to collect from other members and send it in. Another amazing way to get involved is to make it possible for a single student to go to school and watch their progress. For $80 a month or $960 a year, you fully fund one of our RISE students' education, tuition, books, workshops, mentors, etc., and even get to send letters back and forth to them. We actually have at least 20 Rotary clubs that sponsor kids' educations. So other ways to give include spreading the word with fellow Rotarians about our work, joining our email list to get project email updates, fully or partially sponsoring a RISE student, attending our annual fall fiesta fundraiser that the last couple of years it's been free because it's been on Zoom, and I thought, oh, this is going to be boring. I've attended the personal ones for years. No, it was a blast. It was crazy and fun and educational. Anyway, or you could travel with us on a Rotary service trip. Now, those trips, the Rotary service trips typically go in February. They haven't the last couple of years because of COVID, but they've started their trips for donors in general. They're starting the first one back in July. So I'm thinking by next February, they may well have the Rotary service trips back and running. I'm hoping so. Or your club could contribute to a global grant and maybe receive DDF and RTF matching funds. Now, I understand that this fiscal year's global grant is already finished. There will be a new one in the next fiscal year. So while I have this up, see that phone number? Jot it down, please, everybody. Put it in your phone, something. 859-429-2776. And then if you just text that and your email and ask a question or what you're interested in, you will get a response. And you can go from there in gathering information. So again, I just wanted to say how thankful I am that you've listened to this presentation, and know that without Rotary support, our project just would not be the success that it is today. And I will stop share and then take your questions. But before I do that, at the bottom on the blue banner, it says guatemalaliteracy.org. If you don't like that text idea for more information, you can hop online and learn all about Guatemala literacy.org in that manner. So thanks. And let me stop sharing. There we go. So if anybody has any questions, I would be more than glad to answer them.
It's a great program. The first question I have, does that amount of money, maybe I just missed it, is that for 1 year, or is that the whole entire
That's for
program?
one. Oh no, that's for 1 year.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause that, it's so much more than just their school.
Yeah.
They have mentors that go and help the kids out and follow behind them. During COVID, because these rural kids had textbooks, they're the only schools that were able to do any education during COVID, because all the other schools didn't have any textbooks and they were stuck. But Cooperative for Education, the Guatemala Literacy Project, taught those teachers how to teach remotely on cell phones. Nobody has computers. And they had their textbooks so they could do their work in their textbooks. And then they had to send in their homework, which I'm assuming I assume they take a picture of whatever the homework was and send it in. But there were a couple kids that one story I heard of that the mentor went around and said, I wanted to check, make sure everything's okay. We haven't heard from you. You've not been doing your homework. And we're just checking to see what's going on, how you doing. And then have the money to pay for their cell minutes. I know, we're not used to that, many of us these days, but they still do cell by minutes, and they didn't have any money to pay for their minutes. And so they couldn't turn in their homework. Well, the emergency funds paid for cell minutes for those kids, so that they continue their education. And so, it's a lot more investment than just here's the money to go to school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So once a child's accepted into the program, they're always in it. So that you make sure they'll have the funds for the next year too.
That is primary. That is pretty much the goal. They have, last I heard, this is about a month old news. So they had 90 kids in school without scholarships right now, and they're desperately looking for people to cover the scholarships. So yeah. And sometimes people will do a scholarship for a year or two and then have to stop. And they, the people that run the program understand that. And sometimes what happened, for whatever reason, one of the kids that my husband and I sponsor dropped out of school. And so we got a letter from Cooperative for Education that kind of runs all of this and said, you obviously have the choice to just not continue, but if you want to continue, we have somebody who would be in the same grade as the student who dropped out. And if you would be willing to pick up their scholarship going forward, we appreciate it. So we did. But, so they mix and match and, try and make it work however they can, basically. Any other questions?
Christi, there was a couple in the chat. I don't know if you saw that, but since it was on the same topic, Wes said, so $1,000 pays for one child for 1 year, right?
$960, yes. Right. Yeah.
Okay. And then he had a second question and said, what has been the degree of disruption caused by recent volcano eruptions and several hurricanes?
I don't have that new updated information, but I know in prior years, they just keep doing as best they can and help people out. Where were the current volcanoes? I didn't hear about that. Do you know? No. Yeah, do you know, where were those current volcanoes?
The volcano was in Guatemala City.
Okay, that should not have affected these programs, because these are up in the highlands, the rural highlands versus in the city. And yeah, I should take a link to follow on the latest updated news from Guatemala. And I had not heard that. Wow. But to answer your question, it would not impact these programs because they're up in the highlands. Anybody else have any other questions?
I had a few thoughts while watching the presentation. I think the first was the colors in their clothing are amazing. And my second thought was, just because our club is very involved in RILA, my second thought just throughout your presentation was how amazing these kids would probably be in attending a RILA. So
forgive me because I don't know what RILA is. I'm sorry.
Oh, well, currently I think they're planning on changing the name, but it's currently called Rotary Youth Leadership Award. So
oh, okay. All right. Yeah.
A leadership camp that students can go to, and it's students that are already leaders in their community. So we're pretty involved in actually this age group. They're high school juniors that go to RILA. So it's definitely an interest of our club.
Well, there are Rotary clubs that are involved, Guatemalan Rotary clubs that are involved with the whole Cooperative for Education, Guatemala Literacy Project stuff in Guatemala. So they may well be involved in some way. They obviously are doing some of the presentations and outside of school things for the kids. So
that's an interesting thought, Sarah, because I'm curious, Christy, because you said there are clubs down there. If any of these kids might potentially be eligible for like a Rotary Youth Exchange, is that anything that any of them have done or looked into?
That I don't know, but you know what? I'm jotting a note. Exchange program.
Because we get kids at our RILA who are from all over every now and then because their Rotary Club has sponsored them and they've done a Rotary Youth Exchange. So that would be a really exciting program for these kids to be a part of, if possible.
Yeah, I will ask and I will get back to you. Yeah. And Selma, the second girl that I presented about, she was in some international group that met with Michelle Obama, and I have a picture of her sitting next to Michelle Obama around the table, and she just happened to be the one. It was a round table and she was sitting next to Michelle Obama and they were shaking hands, and it was just kind of a neat picture. But
her story was amazing, especially seeing her with her little girl. That is so just absolutely encouraging to see.
Absolutely. Yeah, right. So if there aren't any other questions,
I have a question more about the situation more than anything. I'm not sure if you know the answer to this, but what is it about Guatemala in particular that makes it this kind of hotbed of illiteracy when, you know, its neighboring countries have kind of moved away from that?
I wish I knew. I don't. I've got to think that it has something to do with the government and not putting their emphasis on education. But beyond that, and that's pure guesswork. I've never really read that, but it's interesting because they do have standards of education for their textbooks and stuff, and all the textbooks that we provide are in Spanish and according to the specifics that are necessary according to their government. So, but.
Do any of these kids speak English? Just curious. I guess in the upper grades they might.
Well, they all started, Spanish is what school is taught in, and that is a second language. So because all of these kids are indigenous, and there are 18 indigenous languages in Guatemala. So they grow up speaking their indigenous language. And if they did not get into any other NGO preschool type thing that started speaking Spanish with them and teaching them Spanish, they went to school not understanding a word.
We do have some Spanish speakers, but I was wondering if you mentioned that when you sponsor a student, are you able to write back and forth with them?
Absolutely, you are. And they go through a filter. So there's a form at Cooperative for Education. So you write your letter and they get it translated for you and delivered to the student. And the student can get it into Spanish, And then it goes through Cooperative for Education, translated English, and it arrives to you on your email. Yeah, so it's an email thing back and forth.
Nice. So is Cooperative for Education, is that a Rotary sponsored piece
No.
or is that totally separate?
It's the parent of Guatemala Literacy Project. So there was this one guy who went to Guatemala back when that was a good place to adopt kids from, when you wanted to adopt a child. And he went down there to adopt a child, and he was overwhelmed with the poverty that he saw there. He ended up adopting a child, and then he came home, and he was a recent graduate in college graduate, but in a large company, making a very nice salary, as was his brother. So he calls his brother, not from the same company, but a different big company. And he calls his brother and he said, "You wouldn't believe this, we got to do something." So the two of them put their heads together and started Cooperative for Education 25 years ago. And they went down, they analyzed it themselves and discovered what they needed was education. And that was the long-term win from their perspective. That, get at the root cause. Well, there was the root cause, so fix the root cause. And so they went down there and they got it started, and the Rotary Club saw them and started helping them. And then they got involved with Rotary back home. And then the Guatemalan Literacy Project was started to work with Cooperative for Education. So Cooperative for Education is the boots that make it happen. It's the structure that everything goes through. Guatemalan Literacy Project is Rotary's work to help make it happen. So basically, they're the parent organization.
That's some good background. Thanks.
Yeah, it was fascinating story.
I had a question.
Yeah.
You mentioned that a lot of those kids don't have the opportunity to interact with professionals in their communities. When it comes to the education that these kids are getting to open up, where are they going with to take advantage of professional opportunities to leverage their education?
A lot of these schools are out in the farmlands, where there's not much, but just maybe a school and a little store or something. But they go into what we'd look at as a small town and get a job in a small town. Around Lake Adilan, which is where so many of these kids are in the highlands above and outside of Lake Adilan. It's a tourist area, so there are jobs that can be had there. And so that's where most of them end up getting jobs, is one of the little smaller towns that are around Lake Adilan. I'm sure that some of them maybe travel to some of the bigger cities, but I think most of them are able to find a job, closer to home. So, yeah. One question that nobody asked, but I want to answer anyway. and that is that somebody said, so do we educate them, help educate them, and then they say, well, I want to go away to college, and so they leave Guatemala and they end up not helping Guatemala because they left. And indeed, what we found is that the people, by and large, there are always exceptions, but by and large, if people can get the education to get the jobs that are there, there are jobs there, they're just not educated enough to get them. And what aren't available are the jobs that are for people, manual labor jobs. There's too many people for the manual labor jobs, too many people who need work, they can't get work because they don't have the education, and those are the ones that are leaving in general, by and large. So anyway, that's it for me, and thanks again for letting me do this.
Yeah, thank you so much, Christi. It was a pleasure to have you speak and hear about something that our club could get involved in, and we definitely want to keep in touch with you on that and see if that's something that we can get involved in to help as well. It sounds like there's quite a few scholarships to fill, and it's not the craziest financial commitment that's ever come up for any of us. So, we definitely want to keep in touch with you on that. We'd love to have you join any and every meeting that you want to join with us. We're mobile. You can join anytime or anywhere. So no problems there, but thank you so much once again for being with us today and spending your time.
Yeah, thanks, Christy.
Yeah, and then last couple of things, guys, you might have seen this pop up in the chat, but wanted to bring it up because Wes and Sarah have been kind of talking about it a little bit. There is a district training assembly May 21st of this month in Longview. If anybody wants to go or be involved in that, then they can. Registration's fees low. I think pretty much most of any member would have gotten that email. But there's some information there if you guys want to be involved in any of that. I will be out of town for work, so I won't be there, but that's available. And then we close up as we always do with our 4-way test. So for those of you who don't have it memorized by now, it is in the chat. So the 4-way test, if everybody wants to come off of mute. All right. The 4-way test of the things that we think, say, and do. Number 1.
Is it the truth?
Is it the truth?
2.
Is it fair?
Is it fair to all concerned?
3.
Will it
Build goodwill and better friendships?
And 4.
Will it be beneficial
to all concerned?
All right. Thank you all so much for being here this week. That kind of wraps up our meeting. Remember that there is a link in the chat to nominate people. We'll also send that out in an email. We will see you in 2 weeks. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. I'll be hanging out here for a few more minutes if anybody wants to chat.
Thank you, Christy.
Thank you. Good program. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. I'm out of here. Bye, guys.
All right. I'm leaving. Adios.
All right. Hey, Jacqueline. Oh, she got off before I said.
I'll text her and see if she's got the information to join.
Okay, cool.
All right. Bye.
All right. Bye.